And 4 minutes past the top of the hour, it's yet another time for the Friday edition of the KUTV Prime Time News. With me, Emmanuel Kutosi, holding brief for Martin K. Mutegi, who's unavailable. But the business will go on, the business of news right here on KUTV. Thank you so much for choosing us to be your informer tonight. But first, let's take a look at tonight's top stories. For the people.
Lazima tutembee na wananchi wote, wale wako na pesa, wale pesa yao ni kidogo, sisi zote ni nchi moja.
Heroes Gatongora impassable road. Poor drainage renders Gatongora road completely impassable.
Gava tu watengeneze tu barabara. Yani barabara tu zote zikiwepo.
President William Ruto assures fair allocation of affordable housing units in Kibra.
Kuna mtu anataka kuishi mahali iko takataka? Kuna mtu anataka kuishi mahali iko maji taka? Ama mahali hakuna choo?
The opposition condemns transfer of public seals, citing corruption risks.
This is KUTV Primetime News with Mutegi K. Martin.
Of course, I'm not Mutegi K. Martin, but I'm holding brief for him. My name is Emmanuel Kutosi, and the sign language interpretation will be joined by Sami Okelo. Now, a gradual shift in the perception of the Social Health Authority (SHA) is taking shape. Religious leaders running faith-based health facilities now say the revamped model is delivering results. Citing improved funding and bettering the service delivery, this comes months after sharp criticism from religious organizations over delayed payments and operational bottlenecks under the earlier structure.
A change of tune is emerging from some religious leaders towards the government Social Health Authority after a rocky start. Heads of select faith-based hospitals now say the revised model is showing promise.
As AIC, we are doing very well, and particularly Kapsawar, Litein, Kijabe, and the Cure hospitals.
During a meeting with President William Ruto at State House, Nairobi, representatives of the faith-based health service sector reported tangible improvements, including more consistent funding and streamlined operations.
We were challenged by JOTRH that why are we referring some patients to JOTRH and yet Maseno has the capacity, and because of the enabling environment and what SHA is able to do to our people. And so I did say that from faith-based organization, because from another angle, actually we've been very tough, we have pushed, and the same way we went to the, we made a press, we called for a press conference, is the same way we are going to call for a press conference so that we champion the goodness of SHA.
The meeting brought together leaders from the Anglican Church of Kenya and the African Inland Church AIC, both of whom expressed renewed confidence in the authority. They were joined by officials from SUPKEM who echoed the positive outlook.
And I know we look like we were too mean to you. And the continuum between NHIF and SHA, people don't get it because we were already like so down with the NHIF and
to the offices. Bwana Ngasira has been very helpful with his team. of which most of the major problem were double accounts, names omitted, and so on, of which has been handled. As of today, 70% of claims has been paid. Few are remaining, which I think will work together.
President William Ruto, who chaired the meeting, reaffirmed his administration's commitment to delivering accessible and affordable healthcare. He described SHA as a cornerstone of his universal health coverage agenda.
Health is so critical and so important that it must not be a privilege for the people who can afford. The Constitution demands of government that we must provide the highest standard of quality of health to citizens.
However, the absence of some major religious institutions such as the Catholic Church and the Presbyterian Church of East Africa (PCEA) at the meeting sparks curiosity. Are these improvements being felt across the board, or is it optimism limited to select institutions? While the latest endorsements offer a ray of hope for SHA, the true test will be whether these gains can be sustained and scaled. For now, the nation watches to see if broader consensus will form around the government-rooted health financing model. Yvonne Kemuma, KUTV.
Thank you, Yvonne Kimmo, for that report. Now, Deputy President Professor Kithure Kindiki has come out again and strongly exposed the entities that he claimed are spreading politics against his visit in the Mount Kenya region. Speaking at Ndaragwa constituency in Nyandarua County during a celebration to empower border operators by giving them reflectors, Kindiki said that he cannot wait for the campaign period in order to recognize them as Kenyan citizens. However, former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has condemned the distribution of money which he alleges is a scam. Gachagua alleges that the amount of money received from taxpayers has been directed to bribe women and border operators and to fund the 2027 campaign, as well as disrupt the meetings of those who oppose the government.
Siasa wengi wamezoea kungojea siku ya kampeni ya kuomba kura ndio anatambua kuna mtu anaitwa mtu ya bodaboda. Anaenda anamnunulia reflector kama hii ya shilingi 50. Anamwambia nisaidie kuomba kura. Huyo mtu akichaguliwa anasahau, anaenda, si ni kweli?
Hivyo, yes. Mheshimiwa mzee mjumbe wa Kenya, sisi kama vijana tunakutambua kwa sababu unafanya kazi nzuri ukiwa chini ya rais wetu William Ruto na naibu wetu Profesa Kithure Kindiki, na ndio maana nimetoka Madera nikoje nikusindikishe tuweze kusupport vikundi tufanye bottom up.
Now to a developing story where human rights activist Boniface Mwangi, who was recently arrested and held incommunicado by Tanzanian authorities, has ignited a major political and diplomatic debate following his release. Mwangi claims he was subjected to brutal torture while in detention, allegations that have triggered outrage among Kenyans and renewed scrutiny over the human rights practices within the East African region.
According to human rights activist Boniface Mwangi, he and Ugandan journalist Agatha Atuhaire were arrested in Tanzania and subjected to gruesome torture while blindfolded, handcuffed and chained. He alleges that the abuse was carried out in the name of President Samia Suluhu Hassan, an accusation that has stirred controversy across borders.
I have been tortured very badly. I can barely walk.
The incident has sparked a flurry of reactions from political leaders and citizens alike. Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka is among those who have publicly condemned the arrest and mistreatment of Mwangi, calling for an independent investigation and accountability from the Tanzanian government. However, not all voices have aligned in support. Some leaders have strongly criticized the Kenyan activist who traveled to Tanzania to observe the court proceedings of opposition leader Tundu Lissu, with suggestions that their presence may have antagonized Tanzanian authorities.
Munaona wamepeleka tabia mbaya Tanzania. Sisi tunataka kuheshimu majirani nchi zetu za nje. Nyinyi wa Kenya hapa kutoka South Mugirango, hao watu ambaye wako na bad manners wafungwe wasifungwe? Wamehamia Tanzania kwa sababu wameokopa kushindana na Mheshimiwa William Ruto.
The shocking allegations and the divided political responses have underscored the fragile balance between activism, sovereignty and diplomacy in East Africa. As pressure mounts from civil society and international observers, many are now watching closely to see how both governments will navigate the path forward. Rajab Juma, KUTV.
Thank you, Rajab Juma, for that story on that matter that we are also following up as a developing story within the divide of politics within the region. Now, in a bold assurance to Kenyans, President William Ruto has pledged transparency and fairness in the allocation of affordable housing units, vowing that no citizen will be discriminated against. While inspecting the ongoing Kibera-Soweto Zone B housing project in Nairobi, the president said the initiative aims to transform Kibra from Africa's largest slum into a model estate with over 150,000 units under construction nationwide. The project is already creating jobs and reshaping lives.
Umepewa hii, unaenda pale unaangaliliwa kwa system, inatolewa, unalogiwa out kwa system kuoneshana physically ulikuja na ukachukua, then una sign pale manually una sign pale. So tuko kwa internet wetu tutawa approve within 3 days, wataprintio kadi zao na waweze kubenefit. Tumesema hii mradi hatakuja kupata, na hii yenye tumekuwa tukiona kana na hii zone B hatuwezi kuachilia chance ya kuona.
Niambia hii maneno ya hapa lazima itembee haraka haraka. Mnasema tuendelee na hiyo kazi. Tuungane MCAs pamoja na wabunge. Kazi bila break. Tumekubaliana? Niko hapa na yeye katika hii kazi. Approvals hapa. Na mimi nawaambia tubadilishe Islam ikae estate kama ile mnaona hapa. Mimi nawauliza watu wa Kibera, mnasema tuendelee na hiyo kazi ya kubadilisha maisha ya wananchi wa taifa letu. Kwa hivyo Kibera
Now, from his official residence in Karen, Deputy President Kutv met with a section of members of Kenya's creative industry, and acknowledging years of neglect, he announced 5 immediate jobs placements with more to come, and a pledge to sweeping reforms aimed at empowering and elevating creatives across the country.
Mambo mengi ya waimbaji, wanamuziki na creative industry. Nimesikia vile umesema. We've not given it the weight it deserves. Kuna reforms tunahitajika tufanye. Nimesikia mambo ya collection of royalties, kuwe na digitized way, na hii mambo yenu ya pesa yenu hii ya watu ya simu. Ni kama wanachukua pesa yenu kwa njia za mkato, na hiyo mambo ingine yote mmesema. Some of you tuweke kwa some boards. Hiyo 5 umeomba, nitapeana those 5 positions kwa boards.
All right, and with that pledge and promise from the Deputy President concerning members of the creative industry, we take our first break right here on the KUTV Primetime News, the Friday edition. We'll be back with more.
Baada ya kutafuta kazi, tunaweza kuanzisha miradi yetu ambayo ingetusaidia kubadilisha maisha ya wazazi wetu.
Kwa vijana wenzangu, wengi hawana kazi, lakini ikiwa sisi wenyewe tunaweza kujiajiri wenyewe.
Afrika kwa kweli tuna mahitaji ambayo ukiyasuluhisha unaweza kuathiri watu kwenye bara hili.
Bila uoga, watu huwa na uzalishaji zaidi.
wanajawa na ujasiri, wanakuwa wabunifu na wanakuwa wenye maarifa.
Niliamua kuacha kazi. Hata kama sitafanikiwa, nitakuwa nimejaribu, nitakuwa najua haiwezekani.
Hakuna kitu cha ajabu hapa. Kila anayepata ufanisi hufanya kazi usiku na mchana.
Kitu kitakusukuma na kuwezesha kupata maarifa ambayo hukuwa nayo.
Tunajaribu kutengeneza kitu kitakachopita mipaka ya nchi hii.
Ikiwa unataka kubadilisha ulimwengu, anza na nyumbani.
Ni nguzo na uso wa jamii. Kupanda shuka, akawa tuzo. Ukakamavu wake, ukatii, na kumfanya mwenye bidii. Kwa machozi na makeke, akabaini jinsi ya kuwini. Huyu ni mwanamke ngangari, kwa jinsi alivyo ng'ari. Mimi ni mwanamke mwake. Usikose kutazama kipindi cha mwanamke mwake, nami Caroline Kimwele.
Welcome back to the Friday edition of the KUTV Prime Time News. And now to an alert where the Kenya Meteorological Department has issued a weather alert warning of strong winds and large waves expected from Friday through to Sunday. According to Dr. David Gekungu, Director of the Meteorological Services, winds exceeding 30 knots will affect more than 15 counties including Kilifi, Mombasa, Marsabit, intensifying to over 35 knots on Saturday, May the 24th, and Sunday also, the 25th. Residents in the affected regions are being urged to remain vigilant, and strong winds may damage structures as well as blow off rooftops, while large waves are expected to disrupt marine activities and also reduce visibility. The advisory called for heightened caution in the communities likely to be impacted by these hazardous conditions. All right, and moving on, tensions continue to rise in Machakos County Assembly Ward as representatives vow to defy Speaker Ann Kisuya's directive to shut down the assembly. The House was closed last month following chaos that sparked by a motion to impeach the Speaker. Majority Leader Nicholas Nzioka is leading MCAs in a push to resume committee sittings. That was today, terming the Speaker's directive as unlawful and in violation of Assembly rules. Meanwhile, the Senate has summoned Speaker Kisuya and all ward representatives to appear before it and explain the ongoing standoff.
Na tumefanya research tukagundua kuwa bunge letu la Machakos committee sittings zilisitishwa na speaker wa bunge hilo, lakini sheria haimruhusu. Ile tunaita standing orders zetu hairuhusu speaker kuinterfere na sittings za committee, na sisi siku ya leo chairman ama wenye viti za kamati tofauti za bunge wamemwandikia clerk wa bunge ili facilitate meetings za committee ambazo tunakusudia kufanya kesho.
Now, there's nothing bright about the second Sunrise Road in Gatongora Ward, Ruiru constituency, Kiambu County, which has deteriorated significantly, sparking frustration among residents who are now calling for urgent intervention from the county government. The road, which serves hundreds of daily commuters, has become nearly impassable due to years of neglect and poor drainage.
Once a crucial link between neighborhoods in Ruiru, the road has now become a source of daily struggle for residents. Massive potholes and stagnant water have made it treacherous to navigate, especially during the rainy season. For motorists, using the road feels like taking a risk. Burst tires, damaged suspensions, and long hours in traffic are now commonplace. Public transport operators say they have had no choice but to reroute, leaving commuters stranded or walking long distance to access services.
Gava tu watengeneze tu barabara, yani barabara tu zote zikiwepo juu, unaona Demo unajua kazi iko chini na makastoma pia ukikuja kwa drop pia unapata unaogopa yani kwenda mahali juu utaharibu gari yako pia huku unaenda tu hasara kuna kazi.
Tunalianga tu tutengenezewe na account kwa njia hii tutengenezea. So tukipepa customer wanaingia kwa ile maji iko pale. Gari zinakuja hapo ndani, zinaingia zinakwama hapo ndani.
Most actually gari zinakuja then zina turn around wanazunguka wana have kutumia longer route. Kitu frustrating ni ati MCA baadhi anakaa tu around because anakaa tu hapa just like 200-300 meters from hapa. So pia utumia tu around hii barabara na huwa anaona but hakuna kitu huwa anafanya kuhusu hii shughuli.
Local business owners are also feeling the pinch. Many say customer footfall has dropped significantly while delivery services either face delays or avoid the area altogether due to the risk of vehicles damage. Motorbike riders and supply truck often take longer routes or outright refuse to access the area, citing safety concerns and increased wear and tear on their vehicles. Residents attribute the road's condition to inadequate drainage infrastructure during rains, water stagnates for days, accelerating road degradation and creating health hazards in the community.
MCA najua ni kazi ya mtaa si kazi ya county ni kazi ya MCA ya sukume aende county atutengeneze barabara si ndio so tunaomba kama ni MCA atutengeneze barabara.
The ward administrator has acknowledged residents' concerns and confirmed that plans are underway to assess and rehabilitate the road. However, residents are urging swift and transparent action, warning that continued delays will only worsen the situation.
Tuendelee kuwa watulivu na dakika ya mwisho tutaweza kuwa na barabara mzuri. Tunaweza kuwa hatutamaliza mashida zote lakini I'm very sure by the end of the term of our aim.
As frustrations grow and economic activity slows, the fate of Second Sunrise Road remains a test of the county government commitment to basic infrastructure. Edward Sakwa, KUTV, Kiambu County.
All right, we take an environmental beat where Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs and Diaspora Affairs Musalia Mudavadi, alongside his environmental counterpart Cabinet Secretary Deborah Barasa, have reaffirmed Kenya's commitment to global climate leadership. Speaking at the second Environmental Diplomacy Symposium held at the United States International University, Africa, the leaders emphasized the urgency of addressing plastic pollution and the need to scale up climate financing. As Ochieng Cynthia now reports, the symposium focused on Kenya's role in environmental governance and the importance of regional cooperation.
As the world battles rising plastic solution and slow progress in negotiations on a global plastic treaty, these issues took center stage at the second Environmental Diplomacy Symposium at United States International University, Africa. Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi and Environment Cabinet Secretary Deborah Barasa, while leading the discussions, advocated for domiciling the Global Plastic Treaty Secretariat in Nairobi, home to the United Nations Environment Program UNEP, arguing that the move would streamline efforts and make more efficient use of limited global resources to drive environmental change.
We are so keen to have the plastics treaty domicile. Since the UNEP is here, the consolidation would make a lot of sense in the whole rationalization that is going on within the global framework, taking into account that resources have become scarce for many sectors.
Referring to the upcoming fifth session of the Intergovernmental Negotiating Committee, Mudavadi urged for a balanced, globally binding treaty on plastic pollution, one that also encourages the shift toward biodegradable alternatives. He also urged that inefficiencies in international environmental governance have led to policy stagnation and urged nations to build trust and teamwork to strengthen UNEP's impact.
Plastics, while promoting use of biodegradables and circular economy.
Meanwhile, Cabinet Secretary Deborah Barasa emphasized the urgency of sustainable ocean governance and marine conservation, especially as Kenya faces mounting plastic pollution along its coastal cities, posing serious risk to marine ecosystem.
The ocean serves as our planet's lung, regulating the climate,
providing food, and boosting economies. However, unsustainable practices, biodiversity loss, acidification, and marine pollution pose a growing threat to them. Accelerating action on SDG 14, life below water, is both morally and collectively required of us.
Despite progress in banning single-use plastic and other national efforts, the leaders stressed the importance of environmental literacy in fostering sustainable development. They called for integrated community-led solutions to ensure long-term environmental stewardship. The symposium concluded with renewed calls for unity, investment, and education as vital tools in building a plastic-free, climate-resilient future, not just for Kenya, but for the continent.
We need institutions that teach environmental literacy. It should be just as important as digital literacy.
Watching Cynthia, KUTV.
Also, residents of Mavoko in Machakos County are calling on the county government to take urgent action against companies polluting the Athi River in a grassroots effort to combat the environmental crisis. The community has begun planting bamboo trees along the riverbanks, aiming to restore the waterway and raise awareness about the ongoing damage caused by unchecked industrial waste discharge.
Frustrated by years of industrial pollution, residents of Mavoko are demanding accountability from companies discharging waste into River Athi. The community is urging the Machakos County government to enforce environmental regulations and protect the region's most vital water source.
Take this opportunity to request the county government of Machakos to approach these companies and request them or even oblige them to come on board this program so that we can push this wheel of progress together.
During a bamboo tree planting exercise along the river, John Kakuki, chair of Kisaka Foundation, explained the ecological significance of bamboo in riverine restoration.
So far, we are planting on the banks of the stretch that traverses Machakos County because it is in that area where there are many companies that pollute the water.
Bamboo happens to be one of the best in terms of conservation. Even if the river bursts, it will not carry away the bamboo. So that is why we are strongly recommend the bamboo as part of the species for conservation.
Kakui also emphasized the broader goals of initiative to safeguard water access to downstream communities and restore ecological balance.
People who live downstream use this water for domestic purposes, for irrigation, and for watering their livestock. So if it is not cleaned, you find that they will use water which is contaminated. So we want to clean it so that those communities that live downstream can use clean water.
While some companies like those presented by EPZA Vivian Nabuso claim to treat their waste before discharging, others remain silent and uncooperative.
We encourage